When the doors of the Brooklyn federal courthouse slid shut, the air felt electric, charged with the kind of truth that can set you free or set you on fire. For decades, the industry called Wendy Williams messy, bitter, a gossip queen who poured gasoline on rumors just to watch them burn. Yesterday, she walked into that courtroom with a single match and 12 jurors waiting to see what would ignite. Did we all misjudge the woman who never mispronounced the tea she served? Or are we about to watch the most powerful man in hip-hop lose his crown because nobody bothered to listen when the loudest voice in radio begged us to pay attention? Wendy's heels clicked like a metronome on the polished floor, each step announcing that this was no sideshow, but a reckoning years in the making. Reporters craned their necks for a better view. Court sketch artists scratched furiously, hoping to capture a profile already iconic yet suddenly unfamiliar, harder, leaner, almost regal in its resolve. The bailiff's monotone oath couldn't flatten the tension. You could hear someone's phone vibrate 3 rows back, then nothing but the hum of the aircon as Wendy raised her right hand. Across the aisle, Sean Diddy Combs shifted, eyes forward, jaw locked. His lead counsel placed a steadying palm on his sleeve, the universal signal for stay stone-faced, no matter what she says. What she said, though, made faces twitch. She opened not with a plea for sympathy, but with a timestamp. The day in 1998 she first called Bad Boy's home base the danger zone. She spoke of how record reps complimented her reach in the morning and warned her to watch that mouth by lunch. She recounted an A-list publicist offering her a hush package disguised as a brand partnership bonus. Double the money if she kept Diddy's name out of her mouth for a quarter. She declined. 2 sponsors vanished before sundown. Those details magnetized the jury, yet what really froze them was her calm cadence. Wendy narrated ruin like a weather report. Cold front, warm front, expect storms at 3 p.m. A juror, middle-aged, navy blazer, kept tapping his pen against the desk, the rhythm speeding up whenever the testimony cornered him into confronting show business ugliness he'd once danced to at weddings. The gallery exhaled only when the judge called a recess. By then, everyone sensed the afternoon would peel back layers no double platinum plaque could shield. Rewind to 2003. Friday afternoon at Hot 97, the entire tri-state tuned in while Wendy teased a story about the next big scandal simmering behind Puff's velvet ropes. Ratings skyrocketed. So did incoming threats. First came a cryptic fax, block letters, no letterhead, informing management that continued defamatory commentary would be handled privately. Minutes later, a senior ad buyer pulled a $150,000 winter campaign, citing brand misalignment. By Monday, 5 more sponsors ghosted, and the station's legal team suggested a cool-down period, just long enough for audiences to forget. Wendy refused. She went live, recapped the lost deals, and asked, "Who benefits if my mic goes silent?" Phones exploded with support and warnings. Things escalated in ways that never made Page 6. One night, an intern discovered the studio's side door propped open. Security cameras had mysteriously glitched for 27 minutes. In that blackout, a spray-painted message appeared on the lobby wall. Stop digging. Days later, 2 executives lured Wendy to a lunch about expansion opportunities, only to propose a syndication contract that forbade on-air mentions of Diddy, Jay-Z, or unverified rumors about sexual misconduct. The number had 7 zeros. She slid the folder back untouched, walked out, and doubled down on her next broadcast. Silence is for sale in this town, but I'm not. The retaliation escalated offline too. Total. Once queens of the bad boy charts, now struggling for a comeback, materialized outside the building after Wendy called them washed and broke. Eyewitnesses swear the girl group wasn't there to argue lyrics. They were there to scare. Wendy's then-boyfriend ferried her into a tinted SUV, while security blocked the door. Headlines framed the incident as diva drama, but industry whispers blamed a puppet master yanking strings. Quietly, power players closed ranks around him. Talent bookers stopped returning calls, promoters demanded content vetting clauses, and a talk show host with Oprah-level clout allegedly advised Wendy to pivot to safer segments. Only one problem: safe topics don't expose systems, so she kept turning up the volume, each broadcast telling a slightly bigger version of the story the gatekeepers swore didn't exist. Fast forward to 2024's federal raid. Night vision footage leaked within hours, agents trailing through hallways lined with mirrored walls and blackout curtains, tagging evidence from mini-fridges stocked with MDMA-laced champagne to discreet IV hydration kits labeled party recovery. Investigators cataloged more than party favors. Hidden compartments held medical-grade oxygen tanks. A locked trunk contained what technicians politely called restraints. Those discoveries meshed perfectly with the urban legends Wendy had repeated on air years earlier, warnings desk producers begged her to cut for fear of libel. Her testimony painted those legendary freak-offs in granular color. Guests met at a pre-party location where assistants confiscated phones and signed NDAs, so ironclad they threatened public retaliation for breach. Upon arrival, they were sorted, Wendy used the word, by preference cards they'd filled in earlier. Gender, age range, off-limits, hard limits. Men in earpieces directed them to candlelit corridors, an entire floor of Diddy's mansion, allegedly converted into a choose-your-own fantasy labyrinth. One former bodyguard, speaking through tears in a pre-trial deposition, likened the atmosphere to a theme park for vices. And the baby oil? Prosecutors seized crate after crate, industrial-size bottles stacked like wholesale shampoo. In open court, the defense argued it was for massage. The gallery chuckled until Wendy cited 3 separate witnesses who described an initiation ritual requiring guests to strip, oil up, then obey. She let the image linger, then pivoted to finances. Paper trails showed 5-figure consultancy transfers to party planners who specialized not in decor, but in discretion. Another ledger tied hush payments to a nonprofit gala, listing them under auxiliary entertainment. For the first time, jurors started scribbling notes faster than the clerk, because this wasn't gossip anymore. It was mechanics, how you build an empire on secrecy and make everyone else pay for their own silence. Jay-Z never entered the courtroom, yet his presence loomed in every mention of the industry's selective blindness. Wendy brought the jury back to 1996, when reasonable doubt dropped and a teenage Foxy Brown became the face and body of Brooklyn's new sound. Tour buses rolled, magazine spreads glowed, but behind the flashbulbs, insiders whispered about hotel suites booked under tutor sessions, expensive shopping sprees signed to Def Jam expense accounts, and late-night studio marathons where Foxy's guardian was conspicuously absent. Wendy read from press articles praising their chemistry, then contrasted them with rumors that surfaced in underground mixtape liners, coded bars about training protégés, and teaching positions. She quoted an ex-stylist who'd claimed Foxy once begged not to wear a too-tight lace bodysuit for a show, because he likes me looking grown. The stylist was fired a week later. Then came the fabled tape, allegedly featuring Jay, Foxy, and Jamie Foxx, in scenes more explicit than any rap video. According to longtime club promoters, bootleg dealers arranged a midnight screening, but the master copy disappeared after Foxy's home was burglarized. Police filed a basic break-in report. No follow-up. Within days, whispers turned to myth, and the myth to legend, helped along by label reps who dangled tour support cash to anyone willing to forget. The jury absorbed every detail. Wendy reminded them she was fired after questioning Jay-Z's proximity to a minor on air, and that no mainstream outlet echoed her concerns. Instead, Rock Nation blossomed into a sports management titan, Jay-Z became a billionaire, and an uncomfortable question, was a child groomed on hip-hop's biggest stage, got pushed under the merch table. Her point wasn't Jay's guilt. It was the ecosystem that insulated any superstar from accountability, provided he could sell stadiums and cognac. She closed the file with a line that prickled spines. Erasing evidence is easy. Erasing memory is harder. I remember, and now so do you. Cassie Ventura's story begins like a fairy tale, signed with a non-disclosure clause. 19. Fresh-faced, she meets the man who can transform a club anthem into a world tour overnight. He gifts her designer gowns, private jet milestones, and an entourage whose first commandment is protect the prince, placate the princess. Friends later told investigators that Cassie rarely made eye contact during early interviews unless Diddy signaled approval with a nod. When tabloids questioned the age gap, columnists framed it as a rags-to-riches love saga. Few noticed the metaphorical cuffs. Diddy installed her in a condo he owned, controlled the staff she thought she hired, and oversaw every track on her shelved sophomore album. In 2018, the pair reportedly split after a blow-up no paparazzo captured. Yet Diddy's shadow trailed her. Industry whispers say he appeared outside a hotel where she was recording, anger flashing when a new manager answered the door. She eventually fled to California, living under a pseudonym for months while drafting a civil complaint that accused him of assault, surveillance, and trafficking. The 2023 lawsuit landed on a Thursday. By Friday evening, it was settled for roughly $20 million, plus undisclosed terms analysts believe equaled freedom. Critics screamed cash grab until Cassie resurfaced as a cooperating witness, sharing phone logs and security camera captures. Prosecutors now play frame by chilling frame. Wendy threaded Cassie's narrative into a bigger pattern. Moguls use luxury as both carrot and cage. She described how Diddy allegedly replaced Cassie's iPhone every month for cybersecurity, but also kept the Apple ID tied to his email, allowing him to track messages and locations. She cited hotel clerks who logged unannounced VIP visitor requests in 2014, 2016, 2017. Each time, Diddy arrived without notice. Each time, staff sworn to secrecy. Wendy concluded this section with a gut punch. When a gate closes on a gilded cage, it still sounds like metal. The jury sat motionless, the metaphor echoing like real bars clanging shut. Power is rarely visible until someone maps its circuitry. Wendy drew that map with names you know and backroom job titles you don't. Optics consultants, reputation actuaries, strategic silence curators. She recounted how, after her 2009 dust-up with Tyler Perry's Meet the Browns marketing team, invitations to premiere nights evaporated. A high-ranking Netflix executive allegedly told her, "We're focusing on synergy. Controversy complicates synergy." Translation: discussing Diddy jeopardized future sitcom bids Perry had on the table. Wendy next cited private emails in which Oprah's camp warned a magazine not to run an excerpt from Wendy's memoir detailing their fallout. The magazine folded months later. Staffers still whisper about blacklist calls and vanishing ad pages. To the jury, she explained the unwritten Hollywood list, a digital whisper network updating itself in real time. Step out of line, your name pings phones across boardrooms. Talk show benches close, brand endorsements pause, red carpet photographers suddenly miss you. The list doesn't need signatures because fear does the paperwork. Wendy illustrated with a real-world ripple effect. After she hosted Mark Curry, ex-Bad Boy artist, in 2009, 2 morning shows rescinded their offers to syndicate her segment. An LA billboard campaign was rebudgeted, and a vodka sponsor changed marketing direction. None of those companies admitted outside pressure, yet they all had upcoming deals with either Diddy's network, Jay-Z's tour arm, or Tyler Perry's studios. Connect the dots, she urged, and a spiderweb appears, one sticky enough to catch truth before it flies. The folder Wendy slapped onto the witness table sounded heavier than paper ought to. Inside, she said, lived the receipts of silence. Jurors leaned forward as she peeled back each layer. NDAS, written by Manhattan firms whose hourly rates eclipse average annual salaries. Some required signers to surrender the right to cooperate with law enforcement unless subpoenaed, a clause more common in national security contracts than pop culture meet and greets. She highlighted a 2015 luxury hotel email, presidential suite prepared per instructions, dim amber bulbs, blackout curtains, extra linens, candles, and complete discretion. Another attachment showed a wire transfer from a Bad Boy-linked LLC to a private medical concierge service for post-event IV therapy, time-stamped 10 hours after a reported freak-off. A spreadsheet followed, lines of expense codes labeled talent wellness, image stabilization, and the cryptic TIER 3 SAP. She told the court SAP meant silence assurance payout, explaining that recipients had different tiers. Tier 1 for insiders, Tier 2 for outside vendors, Tier 3 for accidental witnesses. Uber drivers, hotel valets, flight attendants who saw too much. Then came the clincher, a crisis PR deck titled Managing Optics. Wendy, Puff, Tyler. Slides outlined talking point templates, social media flood strategies, and influencer payment brackets to drown critical hashtags. Wendy lingered on the final slide. If primary mitigation fails, proceed to character stability angle. In other words, paint the whistleblower as unstable. She stared at the jury. They followed that slide to the letter. Today, they call it damage control. I call it defamation dressed in a tux papers can't scream. But in that moment, they howled louder than any radio soundbite. The tower Wendy described isn't marble or steel. It's a monument built from NDAs, cozy selfies, and million-dollar partnerships. Every block engraved with a brand logo, every support beam reinforced by silence. Towers cast shade, and in that shade, artists disappear. Assistants sign their futures away, and victims watch their stories edited out of documentaries. Yet structures, no matter how gleaming, surrender to gravity once the foundation shifts. Yesterday, a single woman tugged at one rotten stone. Today, jurors sift through signatures and wonder how many more support beams were hollow all along. But this story isn't just about a verdict or a settlement figure. It's about how culture decides what it's willing to overlook for the sake of a good beat and a better afterparty. It's about us, listeners, viewers, voters of pop icon immortality, asking why we let the chorus drown out the verses that didn't fit the melody. Every download, every ticket stub, every stream became a micro donation to the Silence Fund, and silence compounds interest. Still, there's a crack now. Wendy made sure of that. Cassie widened it. Former bodyguards stepped closer to the light each day, holding flash drives full of memories the tower never counted on. Maybe the structure collapses tomorrow. Maybe it takes another decade of chipping, but the gears have shifted, and towers hate movement they don't command. So, what happens next? Another witness, another folder, another disobedient voice with nothing left to lose. When that voice testifies, remember today, the day a radio host in a courthouse proved that gossip is sometimes just tomorrow's affidavit delivered early. Keep listening. The fall is only getting louder.